All right, hello and welcome to this build guide for Shadow Blender. This is a Shadow Dagger build. It is the third Shadow Dagger build I have ever made, and it's probably the most powerful one, which is definitely saying something because Shadow Dagger came out busted early on. There were some adjustments made to it that, in my opinion, hurt the quality of life, but didn't affect the power too tremendously, so it's still really strong. But now with Umbral Blades, it is even more powerful than it was, especially in single target. So I've been working on this build for a few days, making adjustments to the old build, and I think it's now ready to show, even though there's definitely a lot more power that I could get out of it if I really wanted to, and probably will work towards getting over time. But let's see what the gameplay looks like so you all can get a good idea of just why I'm saying this is the most powerful one yet. Let's go ahead and take this node here because I need boots anyway. And what we're going to do is we're going to play like I normally do on most of my builds, which is go really fast through the echoes and try to get to the objective as quickly as I can and then finish the objective as quickly as I can. Fortunately, with this build, that goes really quickly because you get up to 130% move speed for a large portion of the time you're moving, and you're pressing shift about once every 2 seconds, and so the build gets through stuff very, very quickly, and you don't really need to stop for much of anything. If something gets in your way, you can press Shadow Cascade, and usually it will delete anything that was in your way, and you can continue to move forward. In this case, nothing's in my way, so here, let's just Shadow Cascade this just to show. Oh, he survived it. That's okay. Now he's dead. Continue on, continue moving forward all the way to the objective, which in this case is the storm gate. If this was a mini boss, I would kill it even quicker. In this case, we'll actually have to do a little bit of work in order to remove the enemies. No problem. Shadow Cascade, Umbral Blades, Shadow Cascade, Umbral Blades until everything is dead. Throw in another smoke bomb when it's on cooldown. And if I feel like I need to, I can always use my decoy in order to get out of trouble, but there was no trouble there, so we're good to go. Oh, you know what? Just for fun, kill you. There you go. You're dead. All right, there it is. Very powerful in pretty much every way that you could want. It doesn't really have much of any downsides. Let's see if I got a good pair of boots. I got a 1 legendary Morning Frost. That's not too bad. Okay, so that is what the gameplay looks like. One of the fastest builds in the game, possibly the fastest overall. I'm not sure. I certainly haven't tried all of the builds yet. I'm sure other people have very fast builds, but this one is at the very least in the running. So now that you've seen the gameplay, let's go ahead and get into the pros and cons. So let's start with the pros. First off, it's extremely fast in all types of content. There is no content in which it won't be substantially faster than average. That includes arena echoes, which I still recommend you skip, but if you have to do them, the clear speed, both single target and AoE, is fast enough that you will get through them with relative speed, given that they take longer. But bossing is faster than average. Regular echoes, non-arena echoes, are way faster than average. I wouldn't be surprised if this is well under sub 1 minute average for someone who's just flying through it and trying to get to the objective like I do. And in often cases, it's sub 30 seconds on certain echoes. So speed is no problem here. If you like your character to feel like a Ferrari, this will do that. Related to that, it's clear speed on AoE. AoE clear speed or AoE kill speed is also very fast. It does very good damage with multiple skills. In fact, all of the skills it has that do some sort of damage, which is basically everything but decoy, which does not have Shadow Dagger, will contribute to your AoE damage, whether it be Sync Strike, Smoke Bomb, Shift with Shadow Cascade proccing, or Umbral Blades. They're also all really good on single target, and Umbral Blades just makes single target so much better because it can apply Shadow Daggers so quickly to especially large enemies. And then it just works so well with Sync Strike, and you don't have to stop using the Sync Strike Umbral Blades interaction anytime because mana's not a problem, where it was on the old build. You actually had to manage your mana to some extent. So Everything about this as far as speed and damage is excellent. It's also relatively tanky because it's so unlikely to get hit most of the time. My particular build here is sitting at 74% dodge, and when I'm moving or getting hit, it goes up into the 80s. So that's 4 out of 5 times it's not going to get hit. And when it does get hit, it has other options. So when it gets hit and falls below 70% health, you're going to gain Silver Shroud, which gives you a guaranteed dodge and also some extra ward. And we also have some defensive options for trying to prevent one-shots, including Death's Door. So you shouldn't die too often, but on the con side, if you do play at the speed I do and pull as much as I do, there are random one-shots that occur. Probably, I'd say once every hour or 2 hours for me. I will just find myself dead because I got a little bit too aggressive and something hit me because I probably couldn't see the attack and it didn't get dodged. And there's not like a whole lot of damage reduction on the build itself. It's got enough for most circumstances. But if you want to pull at my speed, do expect that you'll die every once in a while. It's just kind of part of it. So that makes it not great at hardcore, but at the speed I'm moving, it's probably not best at hardcore. This should be probably fine at hardcore if you're pulling more reasonably than I do. But that's about the only downside it's got, is if you want to be super aggressive, it's not the tankiest build in the world, and it will die sometimes, and it will feel a little bit like PoE, where you happen to get one shot. But it happens rare enough to where I consider that to not be much of a downside, given how much quicker I move through the echoes than most builds do. Okay, that's the pros and cons. Let's talk about skill level needed to play it. So it plays differently than the other Shadow Dagger builds insofar as you have to manage your Umbral Blades, but managing Umbral Blades really isn't hard. What you do is you Sync Strike to start, hit enemies, and then you toss Umbral Blades, which will throw 3, which is your cap. As long as you do nothing else, you just let those expire, you're good to go. But if you do this and then you press it again, it will move 1. It doesn't have any more than 3. And if you do it again, you'll recall them. You can use this to your advantage, but if you're not keeping track of your stacks, you can find that you're inadvertently removing your Umbral Blades from a target prematurely. Now, because there's a full additional attack in there that you don't actually need, you have some buffer on that, and I don't think it's going to affect most players too much. You should be pretty good at just Sync Strike Umbral Blades, and then if you want to switch where this is at, just recall Sync Strike Umbral Blades again. And the duration of these isn't very high, so it doesn't really take that long before you can just Sync Strike again if you want to, even without worrying about the interaction. You can actually just go ahead and do it anyway, and it kind of moves stuff for you. So, not really a big deal. But I did want to point it out because it's different than the other one. Notice I'm not getting much mana back. That's because I'm not hitting anything. In a regular fight, I'd be getting plenty of mana back here. That's really all there is as far as skill level. As far as gear for players, you don't really need gear to start this build. It likes some uniques. It really likes Smoke Weavers, but you don't need Smoke Weavers. It just makes it faster and makes you tankier, but the build will work perfectly fine without it. You want Shadow Dagger effect, but the build works fine without Shadow Dagger effect, and then as you find Shadow Dagger effect, you'll just find the damage going up and up and up. So you can play this build on a solo self-found character. I know from personal experience because I did last weekend during the tournament, and it was a smooth ride, honestly. It was very fast. It was one of the fastest runs I've had to Empowered. Okay, patch considerations or future patch considerations. I do believe this is going to get nerfed at some point. It's going to have to take the nerf hammer because it's so strong. But there are no scheduled hotfixes currently before the next major patch, 0.8.5. So for the next 2 or so months, you should be absolutely fine to play this build with no nerfs. Even at 0.8.5, I highly doubt that this will get nerfed hard enough to make it unplayable or even just mediocre, given our history with Shadow Dagger and the devs' relative inability to truly rein it in. Adding Umbral Blades to it only makes that problem harder. It would, in my opinion, take a significant mechanical change to Shadow Dagger in order to weaken it, and I'm just not sure they're at a point where they're going to make a change that's that drastic. I imagine they'll make some tweaks to Umbral Blades to make it a little bit less effective. that won't kill the build. The build will still be really strong even if they do that. So I think this will be fine even in 0.8.5. That's a prediction. I'm confident it'll be fine before that. That gives you several months probably to play it without any issues whatsoever. So with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into actually making the build, starting with the skill tree. And we're going to go in the order that I went. And I do this for a particular reason. I actually start with a new character with shift. And I do that because, as you all know, I like to go fast and I love the node momentum. You know, you can definitely go with a damaging skill first. You obviously won't have access to umbral blades immediately, but when you are leveling, one option to kind of get an emulation of that is to go with puncture. You'll definitely be in melee range, but if you push through here quickly, you can get to Shadow Dagger chance, so you can play with Shadow Daggers. Honestly, by the time you get here, you're going to be pretty close to umbral blades though. So you can either level with puncture, or you could go with something like flurry, which will get you a little bit closer to the enemy, but you can also go down here and take force wave to get some distance between you and the enemies that you're fighting. Either one should get you pretty easily into umbral blade. So if you want to go quickly so that you can get through the maps faster, you can do like I do and take shift first and then your damaging ability second, or you can reverse them, whatever you like. But I go first to shift. I take 2 points in shadow recuperation, I take 2 points in swift recovery, and then I take 3 in momentum. That gets me what I want, which is that 50% movement speed buff for 1.5 seconds. And since we can spam shift, that's up for quite a bit of time. After that, I generally will take Lasting Presence and then Dancing Shadows. That will get us the Shadow Cascade proc every time we shift. We can also go up here and take Unseen Strike, 2 in Broad Sweep, and 2 in Hidden Blades to get a Shadow Dagger chance off of shift itself. Then we can take another, well, we can actually finish up this. Yeah, take 2 more points here in Swift Recovery for that extra mana gained. And Shadow Slip gives us invulnerability while shifting. And then Elusive gives us 3 of 5, and Elusive gives us 90 points dodge rating per dexterity, which is quite a bit, and gets me over that 80% during that 1 second after shift. And since it's on a 2 second or so cooldown, that means half the time while I'm running through the map. Okay, Umbral Blades, the new star of the show, although really every skill in here is some sort of a star. So to get Umbral Blades up and running, you gotta do a couple of things first. First, you want to go over here and get Lethal Darkness to get the Shadow Dagger. So to do that, we'll need 1 in Downfall, and then we'll need 1 in Sword Thrower, and then grab that. Then we're going to need Cacophony of Steel to get the blades to spin in place so that you can hit them a bunch of times. And then you're also going to want Precision Cuts, which allows you to target where you want your Umbral Blades to land. If you don't take this, it will go a predefined distance away from your character. It's a little bit harder to control. Once you've got those, Steel Torrent is excellent, and Loathing is awesome too. I'd actually take 2 in Steel Torrent, get Loathing, and then go back up here for the other 2 in Steel Torrent. From there, you can take 5 of 5 in Jagged Carvings to get the Throwing Fist damage, which should also contribute to the sub-skill, which is, of course, Shadow Dagger, and then finish out with 1 more in Dawnfall. Moving on to Smoke Bomb. Smoke Bomb is a great just AoE clear option. To get that AoE clear, you'll start with 1 in Thick Smoke, 3 in Eroding Flames, and then 1 in Swirling Fog to get you to Shadow Dagger chance on slow. Now you're going to want to increase your slow frequency, so take 3 more in Swirling Fog. From there, you can go down here and take 2 in Lingering Fumes. You can take 1 in Smoke Blades and 4 in Umbral Assaults to add some shadows. That can just help you be more consistent with your Umbral Blades if you need it. If you don't want this extra damage or damage potential, another really good option is either to go up here and take Shrouded in Darkness and Rapid Concealment to get Dust Shroud, which gives you Glancing Blow and dodge rating, or go down here and take 1 in Silver Shroud stacks, which gives you that guaranteed dodge. Any of these options are perfectly viable. I also did take 1 in Impending Gloom and a 4 and 5 in Lingering Fume, so we get more Shadow Dagger procs. Okay, Shadow Cascade is only procced off of shift, but it gives us a number of benefits. So the first one is it applies Shadow Daggers itself, and to get that, we go and take 2 here in Armor Shred chance from Dismantle, 1 in Crushing Darkness, 4 in Dagger Dance, 1 in Porcupine's Wrath, and then we get the Shadow Elegance for the Shadow Dagger chance. And then we can take 2 here for duration and range increase. We can also take 1 in Flow State, which should apply to the sub-skill of Shadow Daggers, gives us a little bit more damage. I finished up 5 of 5 here in Dismantle. I also go down here and take 1 in Onslaught and 2 in Fight in the Shadows, because that shadow that comes out from Shadow Cascade on shift will give us a little extra mana from that. Then I take 1 up here in Battle Trance and 1 in here in Incapacity just to get some frailty chance. That's really all we're doing there. There's just a little extra on the side because there's really nowhere else that's super good to put it into. Okay, the last one, you can also flip these two, by the way. Shadow Cascade's really good for like giving you some extra area clear. Sync Strike is excellent single target, so you can do either one of these before the other depending on which one you'd rather focus on. So the first thing we're going to need to do for Sync Strike is pick up our Shadow Dagger on hit. So we go 4 or 5 in Coordinated Cuts, and then the 1 in Umbral Assassination. Then we want it to go more inward so that we hit single targets with more of them. So we need 1 here. You can go up to 3 just to increase the mana efficiency, make it easier to handle mana. But start with 1 here, 2 here in Art of the Blade, and then also 1 in Perfect Coordination. Now they jump inward. You can get the 3 of 3 in Dynamics here, and you can get the 5 of 5 in Art of the Blade just to get some more attack speed. But then we're going to go upward towards additional shadows. We've got Growing Darkness. We've got 2 in Foreshadowing, and then the 1 in Dark Allies, which gives us those additional 2 shadows. Significant DPS increase for this skill by taking this node. Finally, we'll take 2 of 4 in Razor Strikes to give us a source of physical res shred chance. Alright, let's move on to the passive tree. And of course, we'll start with the Rogue base class. So I like to start with Swift Assassin, which gives more attack speed and physical damage, which are both really good for the build. We of course need to take Twin Blade so that we can dual wield. That'll be important. We're going to want 5 of 5 in Dodge and Parry, and we're going to want 4 of 4 in Sapping Strikes. This allows Umbral Blades to gain mana back once you have at least 1 prefix on rings that gives you the throwing attack damage and -3 mana cost. Over here, take Guile towards the end of your build, so somewhere in the 90s. You're going to want 1 point in it, though, to get 5 of 5 in Evasion, and eventually Agility is really good, too. This one's more important though because of that significant DR while moving, and you're going to be moving a whole lot with this build, especially working your way through an echo towards your objective. Now down to Blade Dancer. We don't want anything in Marksman. There's just nothing worthwhile there. So we've got 8 of 8 in Pursuit. This gives you movement speed, melee, and throwing attack damage, and Shadow Dagger is both a melee and throwing attack, so melee and throwing attack will both scale it. Having both means everything in the damage like pool for that Shadow Dagger is going to scale. 8 of 8 in Cloak of Shadows for our Dexterity and our Glancing Blow, and 8 of 8 in Shroud of Dust. This is a double benefit. 80 health is great for Rogue. It's hard to get health in Rogue, so we'll take it where we can get it. And the Dusk Shroud, when hit, is just an extra little buffer on your damage reduction. 8 of 8 in Once, which gives us both melee fizz and throwing fizz, so it's another double dip when it comes to Shadow Dagger, since it can scale off of both. And dodge rating of hit recently is icing on the cake, just a little extra DR. We're going to want 5 of 5 in Blood Dance. This is hugely important because it's going to be your sustain. You can literally sustain your character just on Blood Dance. If you have no other leech, no other sustain effects, no regen, Blood Dance alone will sustain you. So you're going to want to take this as soon as you can get it. Also 5 of 10 in Argent Veil to give you that additional buffer if you get hit. You will get a guaranteed dodge as long as you're down below 70% health, and also some ward. 6 of 6 in Asuvan's Pact, which will give you dodge rating no matter what, and also increased damage while at full health, which you'll be at most of the time. We're taking 1 of 5 in Critical Eye just so we can take 5 of 5 in All In, which gives us 75% crit multi. We do less damage with non-crit, but fortunately Shadow Dagger is 100% crit, so you're going to crit all the time, so this is a complete win for us. We're also going to take 5 of 5 in Spellbreaker. That frailty chance is nice. Mana regen is not a bad thing. 5 of 5 in Hooked Blades gets you more Armor Shred and Armor Shred effect. Armor Shred's really strong in this build because you hit a lot, especially now with Umbral Blades. And then finally we have 8 of 8 in Death's Door, which gives us reduced damage taken while at low health. This does kick in if you were above the low health threshold and get hit by a hit that puts you below it. The amount that it goes below low health will have damage reduction because of this, so it's not an all or nothing affair. You definitely want it. Let's move on to gearing / itemization. So we're going to use the build planner from Last Epoch Tools instead of my character, since I can show you a more ideal version than what I have. I'll point out where there are some discrepancies if they matter at all, but there's generally not going to matter. And this is actually fairly close to what I'm currently wearing. Okay, so let's start with the weapons. You're going to want 2 smoke weavers. If you don't have it, it's not the end of the world, don't worry. The big reason why we want that is because of the big base dodge rating we get. The damage is actually lower on this than a lot of weapons if you don't have legendary versions. I have put what legendary could look like for you in here. I don't have legendary smoke weavers on this build, so I'm not bamboozling you with extra damage that is really hard to get. If I get legendary smoke weavers on this, it's gonna just go into the stratosphere. I have basic smoke weavers on this build, but if you can get melee fizz and increased fizz on a couple of smoke weavers, you're just gonna see insane amounts of damage. If not, get 2 smoke weavers. If you don't have 2, that's fine, use 1. If you don't have 1, use none. Just make sure you have 1 dagger on, because you need a dagger for umbral blades to actually proc Shadow Daggers. If you read it here, you'll see it says while using a dagger, so make sure you're wearing at least 1 dagger no matter what you do. Okay, let's go through the other gear. The biggest stat as far as a damage increase that you're going to come up with is Shadow Dagger Effect. Shadow Dagger Effect is a multiplier of your Shadow Dagger damage. So get it wherever you can, and where you can get it is on your chest, it's on your helmet, and it's on these 1x3 idols. So wear 4 of these if you can get them. Take the highest Shadow Dagger effect you can get, and then get the helmet and get the chest. Make sure to set up your loot filter to always show you anytime Shadow Dagger effect drops on an item, no matter what the rest of the stats on it are. You're going to want to see it every time. As far as the rest of the stuff you're going to want on your chest and your helmet, Vitality is always a great choice on your chest. CDR is always a great choice on your helmet for prefixes. And double health is always great, but also increased dodge rating is good too. You can put that on your body armor. If you get double health or increased dodge rating on your body armor or your helmet, you're good to go. Those will be really good items. Increased dodge rating as a base for body armor is great too, and crit multi for the base helmet is great. But you're really focusing mostly on Shadow Dagger effect, and also your increased health is going to be really important. Okay, let's move on to the amulet. I like a bone amulet on almost every build because it's so much resistance. Fizz pen, fizz damage are great as prefixes. Also crit multi can go into there. Elemental resistance here, cold resistance, any resistances that you can fit in to make sure that you are capped are going to be really valuable. As far as the rings, I've got a silver ring here with dexterity, throwing fizz damage, and minus throwing mana cost. You definitely want at least 1 minus throwing mana cost, because it's going to allow Umbral Blades to be at 0 cost and therefore actually generate you mana through that passive node that gives you mana when using a 0 cost skill. You really want it on both though, because the Shadow Daggers just scales throwing and melee damage so well that if you have it on both, awesome, you should definitely strive for it. I've also got crit avoidance on one of these rings, and I've got the rest of my crit avoidance through a blessing, so that's a really good way to get it if you can. And I've got necrotic resistance on here, again, just filling out my resistances. I do have a Siphon of Anguish on, but I wouldn't recommend a Siphon of Anguish if you don't get the throwing physical damage. I have this on my current character. It's not like a massive improvement, but what it does is it gives you still that throwing fizz. It gives you additional leech. It gives you both movement speed and elemental resist. And applying doom on enemies is an increase in melee damage taken towards the enemy, so it increases your damage through that. But if you don't have throwing fizz damage on a Siphon, I wouldn't worry about it too much. It's not the hardest thing in the world to get this, because you can farm Siphon easily off of the shade, but again, if you don't have it, not that big a deal. Let's go on to the relic. I've got dexterity, crit multi. I've actually got a bad base on here, which is just from me uploading. Let me actually switch that for you right now. So that's not a very good base. Let's go ahead and take something like we actually have a lot of good choices. Dodge rating, more leech. We could do fire res if we were not res capped. You can really go just about any way here. You could even take shred armor. Let's just throw this one on here for now. Don't worry too much about the relic base. Dexterity and crit multi are really great on this. And then again, we're just doing our resistances. If you've got more resistance than you need, fill in with health. Health is great to have pretty much anywhere. All right, let's go into the belt. I do have a Viper Tail on here. Viper Tail is great because of the increased dodge rating. It's also got slow. Those are both really good stats. And what we can do here is if you happen to get a +2 Viper Tail, you can put increased health. And you can put hybrid health on here, so you can get 3 really great suffixes: increased health, hybrid health, and increased dodge. If you don't have a Viper Tail, that has legendary potential that you can at least get one of those, maybe even both of those, then alternatively you would just take a belt with increased health, hybrid health, or increased dodge in one of the two healths, and that would be preferable. In that case, just put physical damage on the prefix, and you can put mana regen on there just to make that a little bit smoother, or even better, you can take the one that allows you to remove ailments on you, the cleanse one. So yeah, Viper Tail is kind of a reach item, but I figured I'd put it on here because it's not that much of a reach, but a crafted item with good suffixes will be more than enough. All right, the last two items we have here as far as basic gear. Solarum boots I've got on here, increased movement speed, vitality, void res, and increased dodge rating. Hybrid health also instead of dodge rating would work. And engraved gloves, I like these because we can get the resistance we need elsewhere, and endurance is nice to help with one-shot protection. Dexterity, melee damage, leech does health, not necessary, but hey, more leech just means that you get sustain that tops you off even quicker. Hybrid health, and then I put frailty here. Frailty could also go here if you wanted to. I believe it can also go here. Let's see, let's just double check. Oops, it would help if I could spell. Spelling is useful. There you go, yep. So you can put frailty either on your relic, gloves, an amulet, and then you can just move around the other stats as needed. That's everything for the gear here. Let's talk about the blessings and go to the idols. So blessings, I got void res here. It's just easier to find void res on your timeline here. There's not a whole lot else you could put here. There are, like, there's crit multi, and then I think there's a leech you could put on here. There's dodge rating, but that one seems to fit the most. In fact, because I have that, I can take void res off here. I don't know why I didn't do this earlier. I think I meant to put health on here. Let's just put health on there. There we go. Now we look even better. We definitely don't need that void res there. We have way more void res than we need on this gear. Let me fix that for you. Okay, here we go. Void res into hybrid health. I just have to remember to update this after I'm done recording. There we go. So now our void res at 75. We have a lot more health. We're good to go. Lightning res here. Just another easy way to get resistance out of the way. Crit avoidance right here at the Reign of Dragons. Shred Fizz on Age of Winter is a good damage improvement, and then increased dodge rating here. This is just a lot of increased dodge, so great place to get that as well. Last thing, idols. We already talked about increased Shadow Dagger effect here. The suffix, honestly, not that important. I have like increased damage dealt by skills used by shadows here. Not very good, honestly. It's just not that great. Fire damage. These are actually what I pulled off. So that's what these are, right from my actual character. We could change these to like armor shred duration would actually be really good. Let's see what else is good in here. Ward gain on shift is fine. Ward gain we created shadows fine. Elemental resist is nice here. It's actually a way to offload your LE resist onto your idols. Any of that would work really well. So you have a lot of room on your suffixes because the prefix is so important that you're really going to want to prioritize that. As far as these 3x1s up here, I've got crit multi while dual wielding and increased armor shred effect. Those are both good DPS options. If you need resistances, you can fill them in here in the meantime until you've got them filled out elsewhere, and then switch to this later on. These are not like super important, but they definitely do increase your damage. And then I've got one double health, 1x2, which are always really good in any build. All right, that is all of the gearing. Last part, let's just go over really quickly how to do the rotation. It is a pretty simple rotation, as should be clear by the gameplay. Most of it is just pressing shift, holding it down, and running. Then when you get to whatever objective you have, then you're going to go ahead and you're going to open up with a sync strike into the target, assuming it's a single target. Even if it's a group, do that, and then Umbral Blades onto it. That's going to be the vast majority of the damage that you're going to need to do. You can also lay down Smoke Bomb, which will just further increase how quickly the Shadow Dagger procs occur. You can see they're occurring very, very quickly here. And if you happen to need to, and you're actually worried about taking too much damage or getting hit by a lot of targets, you can then just throw down a decoy. That is really all you need to do. It's very simple. So open up with a Sync Strike, Umbral Blades, you can throw in a Smoke Bomb, and just watch the damage, because that's all you need to do at this point. And then once these dissipate, you can just do the rotation all over again. It is really that simple. Pretty easy stuff. All right, thank you for watching this build guide on the evolution of the Shadow Dagger build into something that is absolutely absurd, but also absurdly enjoyable. I do want to shout out to my patron supporters. I've started Patreon recently, and I do have some supporters. I very much appreciate the support you all offered. If you'd also like to support my ability to make these YouTube videos as well as to stream on Twitch, I will leave a link to Patreon below. Also, if you'd like to hang out with me on Twitch and chat about builds, chat about Last Epoch, chat about whatever we're chatting about at the time, I do stream 5 to 6 days a week, and we have a Discord where we have a lot of conversations about both Last Epoch as well as other games, especially ARPGs. Thanks again for watching. I hope you have a great time in Last Epoch, and I will see you all again real soon.